You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Sports fans, welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I've got to start with the ALCS. As much as I hate the Astros, and no one hates the Astros more than me, you have to give them credit for what they've done these past two games. Seizing upon the blown third strike call by Laz Diaz to rally for 7 runs in the top of the 9th. The inning before that, Jose Altuve tying it up. Seizing upon Alex Cora's questionable pitching decisions. I mean, the reality is, the only time we talk about bad managerial decisions is when they're seized upon. Not for nothing, but if the Rays win Game 6 of this past World Series, we're not talking about why did Kevin Cash pull Blake Snell. The only reason that we're talking about it is because the Dodgers were able to rally. Yesterday's game, there were no questionable pitching decisions. I thought Alex Cora managed yesterday as well as he could. I thought Dusty Baker managed yesterday's game absolutely perfectly, letting Framber Valdez pitch for as long as he did. He pitched 8 innings. No other starting pitcher has done that in this postseason. If you had told me that the first and possibly only starting pitcher to go 8 innings in this postseason would be Framber Valdez, I'd have said you were nuts. But the reality is, this Houston Astros team is just really, really good. There's something about these guys. The reality is, they're everything that the Yankees want to be. Think about it. They've made 5 straight ALCSs. They've made 2 World Series. They're 1 win away from making a 3rd. And in 2017, they won the World Series. Sign stealing or not, they have that banner hung at Minute Maid Park. There are a bunch of really good reasons to hate the Houston Astros if you're a Yankees fan. 2015, them shutting the Yankees out at Yankee Stadium in the wild card game. Best flu I ever had. 2017, stealing a pennant. 2019, Jose Altuve hits the big home run off Aroldis by the organization after they got caught. You're allowed to hate the Astros. That's fine. I'm not saying you don't. In fact, I'm adding fuel to that fire. Another reason that you can get so upset at them is because of how great they are. They're where you want your team to be. 5 straight ALCS appearances? Possibly 3 pennants in 5 years? That's a level of dominance that only the Yankees, the 90s Braves, and the 70s Athletics ever accomplished. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One of the worst things about the sign stealing is that it will forever cloud the legacy of some great players. Jose Altuve is great. Carlos Correa is great. Kyle Tucker could become great. Yordan Alvarez could become great. Yuli Gurriel has been really good. The reality is, all of those guys, with the exception of Tucker and Alvarez, because they came up after 2017, all of those guys will have their legacy stained because of the sign stealing. They didn't need to steal signs to be great. That's the thing. It's like, why do you need this extra advantage that's gonna tarnish your legacy? You're already great at what you do. The Astros are proving that they didn't need sign stealing in 2017. Would they have beaten the Yankees in 2017 and beaten the Dodgers that year if they didn't steal signs? We'll never know, but I'll say this. It's certainly possible. That's the biggest thing that the sign stealing has done. It didn't really hurt the Astros at all. They're still great. All it did is hurt the legacy of their players. When we talk about Jose Altuve's Hall of Fame candidacy and Bregman's and Correa's, this is gonna come up. It didn't need to. That's the thing. They could have been surefire yeses if not for the stupid sign stealing. The reality is, this is a great team. And you saw it yesterday. Coming alive in the 6th inning, the way that they did, that's something that only great teams do. You have Chris Sale absolutely dealing. Looking like the Sale of old. The Astros really couldn't get anything going before the 6th inning. He made one bad pitch to Yordan Alvarez. Okay, that happens. Especially at Fenway. I mean, that pitch was outside of the strike zone. That should have been a ball. Alvarez doesn't try to pull it. He slaps it the other way. And next thing you know, it's over the monster. Yeah, it was one bad pitch, but it was more a great job of hitting by Alvarez. So Sale was dealing through 5 innings. The 6th inning, the wheels start to come off a little bit. Altuve draws a walk. Michael Brantley reaches on an error by Kyle Schwarber. I'll say this, though. I really don't blame Schwarber for that error. John Smoltz said this on the broadcast. He was 100% right. Schwarber saw Jose Altuve going to third. So he was thinking about throwing Altuve out at third before the ball hit his glove. Yes, it's an error on Schwarber. He should have caught that ball. It would have been a tough play at third anyway. But the reality is, Jose Altuve caused that error. The inexperienced first baseman thinks that he's going to be a hero and throw Altuve out at third, engineer a double play that's going to get Sale out of the inning. He just didn't look the ball into his glove. That's a case of a novice first baseman, which is what Schwarber is. No one's going to mistake him for Kevin Millar anytime soon. Not knowing how to field his position. That may sound a little harsh, but it's the truth. If a guy like Anthony Rizzo is catching that ball, Michael Brantley's out at first, maybe, just maybe, you get Altuve out at third. But again, that would have been a really tough play. Odds are Rizzo just holds on to that ball. Realizes that he's probably not going to get the lead runner. Doesn't want to airmail it or throw it into the outfield or foul ground. He'd probably just hold on to it. So the Red Sox are starting to crumble a little bit. Runners on the corners, nobody out. You still gotta drive him in. This is where great teams show up. Alex Bregman made out. Yordan Alvarez came up. Hit a 2 RBI double. Right there, you had this sense that the Astros weren't gonna lose this game. Cora pulled Sale for Ryan Brazier. Brazier got Carlos Correa to strike out. But Kyle Tucker hit a single. Yuli Gurriel hit a double. Jose Siri, a guy who's in the starting lineup because Fenway Park is a very tough place to play the outfield, hits a 2 RBI single. By the time the inning was over, it's 6-0 Astros. Game over. Get on the Massachusetts Turnpike now. And Framber Valdez was absolutely fantastic. He gave the Astros bullpen a much-needed rest day. Ryan Stanek came in to pitch the 9th inning. That's perfectly fine. He's not one of the A relievers in the Astros bullpen. I mean, I just don't see how the Astros lose this series. You're going to have a rested bullpen entering Minute Maid Park tomorrow. You can go with a bullpen game tomorrow. Like, that would actually make a little bit of sense to me. What are the other options? Zach Greinke's not going to be a traditional starter on 2 days rest. Same thing with Christian Javier. I don't see them starting Jake Odorizzi. As much as I hate bullpen games, I'll grant you that a bullpen game is better than starting Jake Odorizzi in a Game 6. The only thing that I could see, and even this is unlikely, is Jose Urquidy starting on 3 days rest. But even then, you'd probably rather save him for a Game 7. No one hates bullpen games more than me. No one hates the opener more than me. But seeing how this series has shaken out for the Astros, the best thing for them to do tomorrow is go with a bullpen game. I don't know who's going to open the game, but you got to think that Christian Javier and Zach Greinke will be the bulk guys. You'll try to piece it together from there until the 8th inning. Then you'll put in Graveman and then Presley. I could see that working. It seems like the Red Sox are going to start Nate Eovaldi. He pitched on Tuesday. Granted, he only went 2/3 of an inning, but you know that you're not going to have him for 4 to 5 innings. So the Red Sox are going to go with a pseudo bullpen game. I trust the Astros bullpen more than I trust the Red Sox bullpen. It's shaping up really good for Houston. Moving on now to the NLCS. The Braves really taking it to the Dodgers. They hit 4 home runs. Eddie Rosario was a double away from the cycle. Even then, he hit 2 home runs and had 4 RBIs, including the 3-run home run dagger in the top of the 9th. Made the score 9-2. You can't predict baseball, Susan. You just can't. I don't know why I try. Here are the Dodgers starting their 20-game winner in Julio Urias. A guy who I think should win NL Cy Young. I'll make my formal picks once the finalists are announced. But I really hope that Urias is a finalist. If he is, he'll be my guy. Meanwhile, the Braves are going with a bullpen game. A bullpen that squandered the game away on Tuesday. You have a 5-2 lead entering the bottom of the 8th. By the time the top of the 9th hits, it's 6-5 Dodgers. How could any Braves fan be confident in winning that game yesterday when you're going with an opener? But give the Braves relievers credit. They were absolutely outstanding. Jesse Chavez pitched a scoreless first. Drew Smyly gave Brian Snitker an outing that he didn't envision in his wildest dreams. He got 10 outs. And you know what? Snitker was content to leave him in a little longer. Like, the only reason that Smyly was pulled was because he got into some trouble in the bottom of the 5th. He gave up a single to Justin Turner, then a single to Cody Bellinger. He had runners on the corners, 1 man out. yes, you're up 5-0 at this point, but there's still time for the Dodgers to mount a crazy comeback. So you go to Chris Martin. Granted, he didn't do his job. The 2 runs that were credited to Smiley really should go to Martin. He's the one who allowed the 2 RBI single to A.J. Pollock. I understand that Smiley gets the earned runs because he allowed the hits to Turner and Bellinger. I'm just saying Martin didn't do his job. He was brought in to shut the door, keep it at 5-0, maybe 5-1. Instead, it's 5-2. So you thought maybe, just maybe, the Dodgers can make a game of this. But no, then came the parade of lefties. A.J. Minter pitched 2 innings, only gave up 1 hit. Tyler Matzek pitched a perfect 8th. And Will Smith pitched a perfect 9th. There is no chance on this earth that the Dodgers are coming back. Maybe they'll force a Game 6. I don't think they will. I'll pick Max Fried over a bullpen game. But I also said yesterday that I'd pick Julio Urias over a bullpen game. The bullpen game won, so what do I know? I'm telling you. John Sterling's right. Say what you want about John Sterling, but he's right. You can't predict baseball, Susan. I mean, let's say the Dodgers stave off elimination. They now need to go back to Atlanta, where they lost games 1 and 2 in walk-off fashion. There's no way that the Dodgers are going to win 3 straight. There is no way that the Braves are going to lose back-to-back games in Atlanta. If you had the Atlanta Braves winning the pennant, play lotto, because I certainly didn't. I didn't think they'd get past the Brewers. I didn't even think they'd make the playoffs after Ronald Acuna Jr. got hurt. I certainly didn't think they'd beat the Dodgers. I was calling Giants-Dodgers the World Series. I mean, let me ask you this. Does Dave Roberts go? Think about what Dave Roberts has done in his 6 years with the Dodgers. Fantastic regular seasons. He's never finished with less than 91 wins. You want to tell me 2020 he had 43 wins, 60-game season. Alright, don't be so literal. Here's the thing, though. For as great as Roberts has been in the regular season, he's only won 1 World Series. Like, if you're finishing with 90 wins every year, you're in the playoffs every year, you're talked about as a World Series favorite every year. To only have 1 World Series win in 6 years, and even then, there's an asterisk on that World Series. It came in 60 games. For that to be your only championship, and furthering the notion that the Dodgers can only win in shortened seasons, that's a bad look for Roberts. I mean, I understand the counterpoint. Who's better? Who's going to get them over the hump? I like Mike Schilt, but I've got to be fair. He's never even won a pennant. John Farrell, I don't know if he's better than Roberts. Like, the thing is, if Dave Roberts is fired, he's out of a job for a minute. The Mets pick him up. The Padres may bring him back. The Cardinals may bring him in. He's out of a job for a minute. It's tough to look at a 106-win season and say that's a failure, but not for nothing, in 2019, the Dodgers also had 106 wins. They lost in the NLDS. Granted, they lost to the Nationals, the eventual World Series winner, but did anyone look at that Nationals team and say they were better than the Dodgers? Did anyone pick the Nationals in that series? I don't think so. I'm not saying that Dave Roberts is a bad manager. He's not, but it's tough to sell your fan base on a guy who's only won one World Series in 6 years. When you're in the playoffs every year, you win over 90 games every year, you win the division almost every year, and the only World Series you have came in a 60-game season. That's tough. If I was Andrew Friedman, I'd consider making a change. The only guy who you make that move for is Mike Schilt, but I would really need to do a deep dive there. Is Schilt really better than Roberts? I don't know. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Justin Turner. He had a sad moment, but at the same time, it was also a great moment. In the bottom of the 7th, with Walker Buehler at first base, he came in for Albert Pujols, who pinch hit for Justin Bruihl. Turner hit a ground ball up the middle that resulted in a double play. But Turner was legging that ball out hard. So hard, in fact, that he suffered a grade 2 hamstring strain, and he'll be out for the rest of the playoffs. You've got to tip your cap to Turner. It was really tough to watch the replay and see his leg go out, to see the look on his face, and to see him be helped off. But you've got to give Turner credit for literally leaving everything out on the field. For trying to leg out a double play that, while he was never going to be successful in legging it out, you better try, because it's the playoffs. Because the Dodgers were in a must-win situation. You've got to tip your cap to Turner. Really easy guy to get behind. The fact that Sandy Alderson let Turner get away from the Mets is one of the biggest black marks on his legacy. I was really impressed with Turner's drive there. Here's hoping that the injury heals in time for spring training. The rest of these playoffs are basically a wash because I don't think the Dodgers are advancing past this round. So let Turner be 100% for spring training. Let him come back and have another 27 home run season. Before I move on to the NFL Valk talk, I do just want to say that Luis Garcia was just announced as the Astros starter for Game 6. So they're not going to go with a bullpen game. I can't fault them for that. They're going to go with the guy who got shelled in Game 2. Pitched an inning, gave up 5 runs, got hurt. That game was a joke. Didn't think we'd see him at all in the rest of the series, to tell you the truth. I thought maybe in an emergency you could see him. But I feel like a bullpen game would have been better. What would you rather see? A bullpen game? Or a not 100% Luis Garcia? I feel like I'd rather see a bullpen game. And I never thought I would say that. I mean, I'm not going to fault Baker for starting a true starter over an opener. You just better have Garcia on a short leash. Because I don't want to see any more of Red Sox Astros than I have to. Leave it for the one series that I wanted to be over quickly to go to 7 games. Oh, that would tick me off. Alright, now it's time for the NFL Valk Talk. Specifically, a preview of Broncos-Browns. The Broncos got off to a really hot start. They started 3-0. Granted, they were beating up on bad teams, the Giants, Jaguars, and Jets. When they faced better teams like the Ravens, Steelers, and Raiders, they lost. It's clear that the Broncos aren't a great team. I don't think they're awful. I just don't think they're great. See, the thing is, as much as I like Teddy Bridgewater, and I really do, I think he's a good quarterback, your offense is gonna be limited by him. Just based on how he plays, not taking a ton of deep shots, very safe with the football, but he makes smart decisions, he gives you a chance to win, he just can't do it all by himself, he needs help. That's the thing, he's not the kind of guy where he's just going to put the team on his back and score 50 points. He's the guy who's going to lean on his running backs, who's going to lean on his receivers to make plays for him, and he's going to trust his defense to get stops when they need to. Now, I'll say this, Bridgewater isn't at 100%. He has a foot injury that was really hurting him earlier in the week, but he is going to push through it. He is going to play tonight. I give him credit for playing through it. Realistically, all that means is that the Broncos are going to rely a little bit more on Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. A really good running back duo. They both have 300 rushing yards this year. They're both averaging over 4.5 yards per carry. You're going to see a very run-heavy Broncos offense tonight. I mean, you'll see guys like Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, and Noah Fant get involved also, because of course you will. They're really good players. But I feel like the Broncos offense tonight is going to be very run-heavy, which is going to put a lot of pressure on a bad Broncos O-line. Garrett Bowles is questionable with a knee injury. Even if he plays, he's not going to be at 100%. Granted, he'll still be good because he's one of the best left tackles in the game. He has a 73.3 overall grade according to Pro Football Focus. But once you get past him, the Broncos O-line really falls off. Guys like Netane Moody, Bobby Massey, Graham Glasgow, Dalton Risner, and Lloyd Cushenberry really aren't that good. It's going to be tough for Gordon and Williams to really get going on the ground since they're playing behind a suspect O-line. I'll say this, though, the Broncos' defense is stacked. They've given up the fourth fewest points per game in the league. They've only given up 18.3 points per game. Obviously, Von Miller's a beast. Future Hall of Famer. Mike Purcell's having a good season. Shelby Harris is having a good season. Draymond Jones is having a good season. Bryce Callahan is having a good season. The Broncos have some injuries, obviously. No Jerry Jeudy. No A.J. Johnson. And combine that with the old injuries of no Bradley Chubb and no KJ Hamler. It's tough sledding for the Broncos. The thing is, though, compared to the Browns, the Broncos might as well be at full strength. Realize, the Browns are without Baker Mayfield, so Case Keenum's going to get the start tonight. Odell Beckham's doubtful. Nick Chubb is out. Kareem Hunt is out. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is out. Jarvis Landry's going to play, but he's not at 100%. Jack Conklin's probably going to be out. This Browns team is going to look incredibly different from the Browns team that you've seen all throughout this year. I just don't see how they win this game. They're too short-handed on offense. Their defense really isn't that good. They've given up the 22nd most points in the league in terms of points per game, 25.2. Yes, they have some great players. Myles Garrett's infuriating, but you can't deny his talent. I'm a big Jadeveon Clowney fan, but he's a little banged up. Malcolm Smith is having a good season, but he's a little banged up. Thank God that Greedy Williams is healthy, though. Because he's having a good season, and the Browns need all the help they can get, but it's really not going to matter. I think this game is going to be a rout. It's going to be a very tough game to watch. It's going to be an incredibly low-scoring game. The over-under is 40. Take the under. It wouldn't surprise me if this was like a 20-10 game or something like that. But the Broncos are winning it. Alright, now I'll give you some college football Valk talk. Because believe it or not, we actually had an upset yesterday. Coastal Carolina got upset by Appalachian State 30-27. The Mountaineers kicker, Chandler Staten, kicked a 24-yard field goal at the end of the game to give App State the upset. Granted, this isn't anywhere near the Michigan upset, but It's a really good upset for them. They're 5-2, but they haven't been ranked at all this year. I understand that they play in the Sun Belt, a conference that doesn't get any love. But look at their losses. They lost to the Hurricanes week 2. They played the U very tough. App State nearly won that game. Yes, last week they got destroyed by the Raging Cajuns. But Levi Lewis is a very good college quarterback. You watch, he's going to be drafted high this year. Someone's going to try to turn him into the next Lamar Jackson, and it's not going to work. Because there's only one Lamar Jackson. Also, the Raging Cajuns are 5-1. Like, the Sun Belt has 3 really good teams. 6-1 Coastal Carolina, 5-1 Louisiana, and 5-2 App State. It's going to be nice to see those teams that you never see play under the bright lights of a bowl game. Maybe not the most prestigious bowl game, but a bowl game nonetheless. Chase Bryce was absolutely excellent. Rebounded from his bad game last week against Louisiana to complete 18 of his 28 passes for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. Malik Williams was insane. 10 catches for 206 yards and a touchdown. Corey Sutton was great. 6 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. I thought App State's O-line played really well. Anderson Hardy, Damian Daly, Bear Hunter, Isaiah Helms, and Cooper Hodges were really, really good. Defensively, I was really impressed with the Mountaineers linebackers. I liked what I saw from Nick Hampton, T.D. Roof, DeMarco Jackson, Jalen McLeod, and Trey Cobb. Not for nothing, but Coastal Carolina was up 14-0 after the first quarter. App State could have very easily keeled over and died, but they didn't. From the second quarter on, they outscored Coastal Carolina 30-13. That was really impressive. Give Sean Clark a ton of credit. He's doing a great job with that program, and he's going to get a big offer from a big school in this coming coaching carousel. I mean, I didn't think Coastal Carolina was bad. Grayson McCall looked solid. Completed 15 of his 23 passes for 291 yards and a touchdown. The Chanticleers couldn't run the ball at all. Reese White and Shamari Jones really couldn't get going. Don't let the 2 touchdowns by Jones fool you. They were short runs at the 1-yard line. White and Jones combined for just 61 rushing yards on 19 carries. That's why I mentioned the Mountaineers linebacker core. Give McCall credit. He kept the Chanticleers in this. He got Javon Haley involved. 6 catches for 103 yards. Cameron Brown had 3 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. But I wasn't impressed with their O-line. I wasn't impressed with their defense. The reality is Coastal Carolina just didn't do the little things in this game. They didn't play a well-rounded game. That's why they lost. App State did. That's why they won. This is a statement win for the Mountaineers. They should be ranked next week. And I'm going to look forward to watching them in whatever bowl game they play. I'll close this show out by previewing Tulane SMU. When you first look at the Green Wave, you see that they're 1-5. How good can they be? They actually have a good offense. They have the 37th best offense in the nation in terms of points per game. They put up 32.8 points per game. They haven't had a game this year where they've put up under 21 points. I mean, not for nothing, but the first week of the season, they almost beat Oklahoma. They actually have some talented offensive players. Michael Pratt isn't a bad quarterback. Not great, but certainly not bad. Cameron Carroll and Tyjae Spears are good running backs. Tyreek James is actually one of the best tight ends in the nation. He has 22 catches for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jatavian Tolles has 14 catches for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns. They don't have a bad offense. The thing is, though, their defense is beyond awful. They are the 4th worst defense in the nation in terms of opposing points per game. They have given up 40.2 points per game. You know you're a bad defense when you're allowing East Carolina to score 52 points against you. I mean, they are an embarrassment. Willie Fritz has a defensive background, and he's done a good job with Tulane, but he really needs to get that defense sorted out. And I know that this is his first year, but you've got to fire Chris Hampton. It just doesn't seem like he has what it takes to be a defensive coordinator. When you look at SMU, they're a very well-rounded team. They're undefeated. They're 21st in the nation. Sonny Dykes has done an excellent job with that program. Tanner Mordecai is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the nation. He's completed 71% of his passes for just under 1,900 yards, 26 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He can also kill you with his legs, as can the running backs Trace Siggers, Ulysses Bentley IV, and Tyler Levine. Danny Gray, Rashee Rice, Reggie Roberson Jr., Grant Calcaterra, and Jordan Curley are all really talented pass catchers. The SMU defense is excellent. Elijah Chapman, Devere Levelston, Mike Williams, Jimmy Phillips Jr., Will Jones, and Shane Haley comprise a great front seven. I don't like SMU's secondary, but the front seven gets to the quarterback so quickly that it almost doesn't matter. This is a great Mustangs team that has the talent necessary to go undefeated. It honestly wouldn't stun me if they upset Cincinnati in a few weeks. That's how good this team is. But as for this game tonight, It's going to be a high-scoring game. The over-under is 70. I'm tempted to take the over at 37-34, but I'm not going to go as far as to bang my fist on the table and say you should do it. I'd probably just leave it alone. But I'll say this, I could see this game being like 38-35 or something like that. Regardless, the Mustangs offense is going to run roughshod over the Green Wave defense. SMU is going to win this game pretty darn easily. Until tomorrow, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.